Hello everyone, it's been a while since we posted a video. I thought today would be quite relevant to chat around the fear of speaking. And if we think about that, well, we say speaking, everyone speaks all the time. But I've come across a certain pattern that I'm picking up from clients in therapy. And these are clients that are usually kind of brought to me through a diagnosis of anxiety. And there's a prominent theme that comes with anxiety. There are many prominent themes that come with anxiety. One of those most prominent themes is a fear of speaking and a fear of speaking out. And that links to a fear of assertiveness. Okay, so what do we find? We find individuals that struggle to be assertive are individuals that generally struggle to manage stress in the workplace. And if we unpack that and we understand that, well, we can actually see that that would make sense. Why? I'm going to give an example. Let's say you're an employee and your employer asks you to manage a deadline. And you're working on this deadline, but you're not going to meet the deadline. And you can see you're not going to meet the deadline. And you're trying your best and you're getting stressed, but you're not able to meet this deadline. So you need to go back to your boss. So you need to tell your boss that you're not going to meet the deadline. But if you're afraid to communicate, and if you are somebody that's naturally anxious, a few things are going to happen. Number one, you're going to catastrophize. And you're going to make this bigger than what it is. When it starts feeling bigger than what it is, your brain starts panicking. When your brain starts panicking, it starts releasing adrenaline and cortisol into your body to make you feel unsafe. And then you're going to either go into fight, flight, or freeze mode. And everyone knows the flight mode quite well. Ever heard of procrastination? Doing things that are nothing like the things that you need to be doing. And suddenly you find yourself doing everything else but the thing that you should be doing. Well, this speaks exactly to that. So what happens is adrenaline kicks in, fight or flight or freeze mode, which is the flight mode. And what happens is you start wasting time even more so. And as you're wasting time, your brain is aware that you are not spending time on the thing that needs to be spent time on. So what happens? Even more catastrophizing, even more adrenaline and cortisol being released into the body, even more stress being released into the body. And then what we find is it becomes exacerbated, where physiologically you start feeling very keyed up on edge. For some people, it can be very palpable. They might be quite shaky. They might be very snappy and on edge. For other people, they tend to mask it well and give a very relaxed presentation. But inside, they have a lot of churning going on. Inside, they often can complain of stomach cramps and illnesses, or they might be somebody that struggles just basically with IBS. On that whole, they might find that there's a lot more bloating, a lot more wind that's going on. People that have polycystic ovaries or any uterine difficulties, because you're on edge, the uterine system actually tenses up. So you can find things like UTI difficulties around all of this. And this all just speaks to kind of the infinitesimal things that can happen as a result of stress and anxiety. But where we go back to this, and let me not go off on a tangent to lose myself here, I've clearly derailed a little bit, is we come back to this thing of you've had a realization, but you haven't communicated that realization. So what's happening is your boss is on the other end thinking, okay, this deadline's coming, but you're on another end where this deadline's not arriving on that due date, but you haven't communicated that. So what happens is you sit back and you think, my boss has such unrealistic expectations. And the deadline comes and you don't make the deadline and your boss thinks, this person doesn't care about deadlines. And we look at how can all of this chaos and all of this stress be better managed through three things: honesty, transparency, and communication. And they're actually all intertwined. How could it be different if you go to your boss and you say, I am so sorry. I know you need this done by X, but I'm actually struggling to get it done, and I'm actually working myself up to a place that's really not healthy. Realistically, I can only get this to you by Y. What is this going to mean for us? And how can we communicate that outwardly? Are there other people involved? And how do we communicate that outwardly to those people? Just by communicating that, you're sharing your truth, which means your brain relaxes because it can see that you're being transparent. Because when you're not being transparent, it's also panicking that you're hiding and that you're keeping things. And that makes it panic even more. So the minute you have transparency, honesty, and communication to the person that is expecting things from you, you help that person, i.e. your boss, to adjust their expectations. And then your brain feels like, hang on, we're all on the same page. Good. I have permission. I have permission for this to be okay. And when you feel like you got permission for that to be okay, you feel like you can relax more into it, because the time factor and the deadline factor isn't the thing that is stressing you out. Which brings us to another series on time pressures. But that's for a later day. I hope this helps somewhat, and please feel free to drop me an email or more specifically and make a comment in the comment box. Take care.